Consecrated Life Project, where we talk about embracing your mission and living your purpose with faith and confidence. Today we have Kayleen Baguley with us, and I'm so excited for her to share her story. I've heard bits of it, and she just inspires me, and her light just radiates wherever she goes. Thank you for being here, Kayleen.
Thank you.
So give us just 2 minutes. Explain to us who you are, where you're from, or where you live, what you do, what you're passionate about.
Alrighty. Well, I currently live in Arizona. I've been here for about 5 years. I mostly grew up in Utah, but I've also lived in California, Minnesota, and Ohio. And I have 2 beautiful daughters. One is 15 and a half as of right now, and the other one will be 11 in a couple of months. And I have been divorced 3 times. I am a violinist. I taught violin for about 12 or 13 years when I was in Utah, and I love music. And I'm really passionate about helping women, especially single moms, just to be able to connect with Heavenly Father and remember that they're not alone and we're all in this together. And I love doing that, and I love helping other people and cheering them on in their businesses as well. So that's another big thing about what I do.
Beautiful. Love it. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you came to find your mission or your purpose, where you're at in this phase of life, because we're all in different phases and it changes throughout life, but for where you are right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the last couple of years, like I said, I've just really, with some of the things that I've gone through, I am like, I want people to know that there is the other side of the mess that you're in right now. And we all have those times, and we have the ups and downs. And when we're in the middle of the really crappy parts of life, it's hard to know that there is another side. And I am living proof of that. And my life isn't perfect. I'm not where I want to be with finances or where I'm living or anything like that, really, or even relationships. But I still know that God is there and that He loves me. And I have been able to come to the realization that, His plan is not my plan, and His plan is way better, and it's all going to work out, and it's going to be fine. And that just brings me a lot of peace.
What was the point when you finally decided to trust Him completely? Like, maybe I thought I was doing this, but you told me I'm doing this, and maybe I don't want to, and maybe I fight back, and maybe my mortal brain gets in the way, but okay, I'm in.
I think, again, that I've had that a couple times in my life. I was thinking about it, preparing for this, and probably the first time that I really remember that was when I was about 19, and my first steady boyfriend had just broken up with me after like 2 months of dating, and I was totally devastated because all of my hopes and dreams just died right there. And I was like, now what? I don't even know what to do with myself. I was so young, and I look back and I'm just like, oh, sweet little Kayleen. And tissue ready. But I just remember kind of locking myself in my bedroom when he broke up with me, and I was living with roommates at college, and I just like stayed in my room for a day and a half crying. And finally my friends came in and were like, get out of bed, come on. And I went to church the next day, and of course my boyfriend was at church with me, and he wasn't, with me, but I sat and cried through the entire meeting. And people were getting up and bearing their testimony, and that just made me cry more. And one of my friends came and sat by me and hugged me, and she just gave me her strength, and that helped me to reach out and just say, my Savior, Jesus, I need you. I can't get through this by myself. And I'm going to give this pain and this heartache and this grief to you because I can't carry it anymore. And that was really the first really powerful experience that I had with turning that over to God.
I love that. I love what that testimony that is for the ministering power of that one friend who came and helped you have strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for any of us, who in our lives do we have that are maybe struggling, that might just need that arm around them to say, hey, I'm here, it's okay, and to reinforce the fact that God does love you, even if you're going through something so hard. Sometimes it's hard to see it amidst pain. What's happening.
Right.
So what opposition or resistance have you faced, and how did you get through it? Can you share a story with us?
Yeah. Well, I think probably again after my first divorce happened, that was another time when I just felt like everything was conspiring against me. That again, this dream that I had of being a wife and mother and having this family and just, kind of that was going to be my life and that was all I needed to worry about was just gone. And it was hard because it wasn't really like there weren't big major reasons for us to get divorced that a lot of people go through. So I just kept feeling, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why we're falling apart and why this isn't working. And it was really, really hard. And to tell you the truth, I did not do a great job after that marriage of turning to God and trusting in Him. And I kind of took things upon myself, which got me into another relationship that ended up in a marriage that really was not healthy for me. And during that second marriage, I had stepchildren that had been abused by their mother. And I didn't know that until about a year after we were married. And so then to deal with all of the pain and trauma that they had gone through, as well as we got pregnant after we got married really soon, and I ended up having a brand new baby. And all of these things were happening during that time where I went from one child from my first marriage to 5 children in my second marriage within about a year. And so that was really difficult. And then trying to help these kids and help them know that they were loved and help them oh, excuse me, help them to have faith that God was there for them despite all of these things that they had gone through. And when you're dealing with people who've been abused, it's really, really difficult. And especially when you're trying to do it on your own, which I was. And about 4 years into that marriage, I got to the point where I was on antidepressants. I was sleeping most of the day. I wasn't taking care of my kids. I was playing video games the times that I wasn't sleeping. I just went numb. I just went into this, I can't deal with life anymore. And I didn't know how to get out. I was lost. And despite the faith that I'd grown up with and my knowledge of God, I just couldn't connect. And I had a friend who invited me to actually go learn about essential oils at that time, which I was like, okay, whatever, And I went to this meeting and they were talking about essential oils and I just cried through the whole meeting. And I was like, this is weird. They're trying to sell me stuff. Why am I crying? And for me, that was the beginning of the answers that I needed to help me get out of that place that I was in. And the oils helped me to get off of antidepressants. And my friend who invited me ended up becoming my best friend. And she had gone through similar situations in her life. So again, that ministering and that reaching out to someone, she just, as she was coming over and talking to me about business stuff, she saw my kids and the way that they interacted with me, and she was like, hey, I think you need to look into reactive attachment disorder because I think your kids are dealing with that. And I was like, what is that? What are you talking about? And I started reading about it and looking into it, and I found a counselor who specialized in it. And I thought, okay, that is exactly what I've been dealing with for these last 4 years. And I'm not going crazy, and I'm not alone, and I don't have to do this by myself. And so that helped pull me out of that funk. And I know that God placed that friend in my life at that time for that reason. And she's now my best friend. And I couldn't imagine my life without her. So I'm so grateful for that. And I couldn't imagine where I would be if God hadn't placed her in my life at that time. So, yeah.
That's a powerful story. And how many times do we feel like maybe we're in that depth of depression and sadness and stuff, and we feel like I can't feel God, but God still cares about us. And if you can't connect directly with him, he'll send somebody else to be there to support you at the level that you can handle until you're ready to come back. And so no matter how deep you feel you've gone or how much you feel like I was here and I had the light and the connection and then I dropped and now I'm down and I can't connect at all, that he will pull you back out again. Because I can see the light in your eyes now. Like, you have it back. You've gotten probably farther than you ever were before on the side of the light because you've experienced so much dark that you know the opposite.
Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so can you think of an experience where maybe you had the direction where you thought you were going and you're like, hey, I finally got it. I got it. I'm going to do this. This is right. I can feel it. And you're going. And then God's like, nope, go over there. And you're like, but I thought I finally had it.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, definitely. So after my second marriage ended, I said, okay, I am not going to date anybody for like a year. I'm just going to take care of myself. I'm going to reacquaint myself with God. I'm going to reacquaint myself with myself. I'm going to love my children, my 2 daughters. I'm going to just change everything in my life. And God was like, you need to go to Arizona. So I said, okay, I'm going to Arizona. So I moved down here, and within a couple of months, I thought, okay, maybe I'm ready to start dating again. And so I kind of got on some online dating things and started talking to some guys, and I met this one guy, and it was like, he was perfect for me. We had so many things in common, and he said that he believed in God too, and he was a member of my church, and we just connected like right off the bat. And I was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is great. Everything is going to be amazing. And we started dating, and within a couple of months of us dating was when I got diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen now. Like, when you are diagnosed, you're just like, my whole life is now up in the air. What do I do now? And I was diagnosed with stage 1 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I'm really grateful that it was only stage 1, and I had a tumor in my tonsils. But with lymphoma, it spreads really quickly, and the doctors don't know what to do besides give you chemo. So they were like, no, you really have to do this, because otherwise you could have cancer elsewhere in your body, and you're really young and you don't want to die. And so we're just going to give you chemo. And you're going, yeah, I don't want to die. Okay. So I started the chemo process, and my boyfriend was like, quit trying to get rid of me. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to be with you no matter what. Like, I'm here for you. And during that whole process, that was about 4 months or so, he was amazing. He helped take care of me. He was really sweet and wonderful with my girls. And I thought, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Heavenly Father, for sending this man to help me get through this process. And he was amazing, and he was a huge help during that time in my life. And as soon as the chemo was over, I was like, okay, like, he wants to marry me, let's just get married. Like, why should we even wait, you know? And so we got married, and my kids were gone for the summer, and we just actually ran away and eloped to Vegas. But because I'm like, this is my third marriage, I don't need a big party. Like, I'm good. And and when we came back, and when my kids came back from being with their dads for the summer, it was like everything kind of changed, and he started to act really weird, and he didn't really like having us in his space all the time. And he had been married before, but really wasn't, he'd been divorced for a really long time. And so he really wasn't used to living with people, and especially not children around. And so it was really hard for all of us, and things just changed really fast. And I was like, what is this? I thought this was the one. I thought that we were going to live happily ever after, finally, you know, and that this was where I was supposed to be. And so that was really hard. And again, I found myself floundering a bit, but not as much as I did the last time, because I remembered that he had brought me through it, that God was there for me. So I really started to turn back toward God faster this time, which I'm grateful for. And sadly, my husband turned the other way. And we ended up separating after about a year and a couple of months of getting married. And we kept thinking, you know, maybe we can work this out somehow, maybe, you know, because we still love each other, and we still have all of this in common, so let's keep trying. And we tried counseling, and we tried all of these things, but really the bottom line is we had completely different long-term goals, and I didn't know that, and I didn't realize that. And partly it was because he hadn't been completely honest with me, and partly it was just my own, that hope and that optimism that I have sometimes can be a curse. Because I think the best of people, which I want to, and I don't think there's anything bad with that. But sometimes people don't live up to that, and that's okay, because that's their journey and that's their path. And our paths ended up separating. He actually got arrested about a few months after we were separated, and so I knew that that was not my path to be with him. And so that was about a year and a half ago that he was arrested and our divorce went through. And so I'm just kind of in this place where I'm like, okay, God, now what? Because clearly I don't have control over my life, and I have choices, and I can make choices, and I can think that they're going to turn out a certain way, but they don't always do that. And that's okay, because I know that every choice that I make and every obstacle that I come up against is actually bringing me closer to God. When I remember that, and when I remember that he loves me and he's there for me, I know that everything is going to work out.
Yes, it does always work out. Sometimes it's messy on the journey there. It does work.
Yes.
You might have already covered this one, and if you don't want to answer because you feel like you did, then that's fine. But share a time when it may have looked like you failed to the world and what you learned through it.
Yeah, I mean, after you go through 3 divorces, you start going, okay, I think I'm going to just give up on this whole marriage idea. And who knows? Sorry, one sec. Oh my goodness. Who knows what is in store for me as far as a relationship goes. But at this point, I'm just giving it over to God and just trusting in him that as long as I'm doing what I know I need to be doing for me, taking care of my girls, being a good mom, financially repairing myself, because that's another thing that I've failed at spectacularly over the years is finances. And I've really never lived above the poverty level, especially by myself. When I was married, it was a little bit easier and a little bit higher, but whenever I'm single, I'm always way below poverty level. And I don't know how I survive, but somehow I do. And actually, I do know how I survive. It's because God provides for me. But on paper, and for anybody looking in, it'd be like, how are you not living in a van down by the river right now? So that's actually been a big testament for me that I haven't talked about, is just the financial aspect of it, that I'm always provided for. There's always enough. And even though it's not what I think is enough, there's always enough.
That's awesome. So do you find yourself connecting with the scripture, remember the lilies? Like, just trust that God will take care of everything.
Mm-hmm. And the sparrow.
When you're at that place, to realize that he really, really does. Like, it says God's way is simple. And if we trust him, and he says, look unto me in every thought, doubt not, fear not. And if we really do that, then he'll take care of it. Like, in the earthly realm, we might not think it makes sense at all, but it always, always works.
Always. Yep.
Awesome. Is there anything else you feel like you need to share with us today?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, just one more thing about the finances. I was taught to pay tithing my whole life, and I did really well up until my second marriage, where again we were struggling financially, and it just fell by the wayside. It was just, I just did not have enough faith at that time in my life to pay my tithing. And so that's been a real struggle for the last 8 or 9 years probably for me, to get back to that and to have that faith again, that when I pay 10% of my income for tithing, that the Lord will provide for what I need when my income is so low. And so the last year or so, I decided to reconsecrate myself to that principle. And I cannot tell you the blessings that I have received over this last year, putting my faith in that principle, that paying tithing, the Lord pours out blessings upon you. And they might not be financial blessings, and that's okay. And for me, it hasn't been financial so much that, now I'm rolling in the money and I have all the things I ever want and whatever, but he has provided for me. And like I said, we always have everything we need. My kids always have enough food. We always have gas. We have a car that works. We have clothes to wear. We have a place to live. Like, we always are provided for. And when I pay my tithing, I feel like there is more, or I realize, or I recognize more of the blessings in my life. And I don't know if I'm necessarily getting more blessings, but I recognize them more. So it really helps me to feel that gratitude and to strengthen my testimony and know that God is there and he cares about me and he knows everything I'm going through and he provides what I need.
Definitely. That's a good nugget to leave on. Thank you for sharing that. That's important. I really feel like there's people who needed that last bit that you felt to share. So thank you.
Yes.
People contact you if they feel like, oh my gosh, I just listened to her story and I just feel this connection that I need to talk to her, whether they need help or just feel like you'd be a good friend or whatever. How would you like them to reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook a lot, so you can definitely send me a message on Facebook, and it's just Kayleen Baguley. Should be pretty easy to find me. Or you can always send me an email as well, and it's just kayleenbagley@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayleen. We appreciate you sharing your story and sharing your faith. I know it will be a strength to others. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.